Hi everyone! So this video is a bit different than the videos I normally post. It's a bit more serious. I wanted to talk to you about my recent miscarriage. I know that a lot of women have gone through miscarriages. And I do also know that when you are going through a miscarriage, one of the only forms of comfort is to read and hear about other women who have gone through your same experience so that you don't feel alone. My miscarriage was a blighted ovum, which sometimes is called a chemical miscarriage, where nothing actually forms in the yolk sac. So your body thinks that you're pregnant and continues to think you're pregnant until someone or a few months in where your body figures it out. So I got my BFP, which means big fat positive, on May 1st of this year. I was super excited. It was my first pregnancy. So I filmed it. I filmed doing the test and seeing the positive, and then I filmed showing my husband the positive, and then I filmed calling all of our parents on FaceTime and our sisters and brothers. So needless to say, I was super excited. I made my first appointment with my gynecologist around the 7.5 week mark. So the whole month of May, I was preparing, eating completely differently. My life changed within minutes. I was being super healthy, taking my prenatals. My mom sent me pregnancy books. I signed up for every single pregnancy app you can think of. I was researching everything that I needed to do. I was looking at names with my husband, just jumped right in. It's our first pregnancy, so we got super excited. So my first appointment came around with my gynecologist, and I was so nervous. And I was nervous because I thought I was having twins, which is hilarious. I thought I was having twins because I was so bloated. I felt like you could see that I was pregnant already. I felt so different. My body was going crazy. It was so extreme that I was like, it must be twins. So I was nervous about that. During the appointment, the doctor calculated that I was 7.5 weeks along, and he asked if I wanted to hear the heartbeat, if I was ready to hear the heartbeat. And I was like, yeah, for sure. So he did a topical ultrasound, which is above, on top of the uterus. And he was searching, and from what I could see on the monitor, there seemed to be like a circle, and that was it. And he couldn't hear a heartbeat. He looked a little bit concerned, and he just said, you might be earlier than you think you are. I'm going to order a vaginal ultrasound so that we can be sure. And when I was talking to him later, I was like, you seemed a bit concerned. This isn't normal, right? He's like, I'm not gonna lie, it's not normal this far along to not hear a heartbeat or see anything, but let's be sure and order this ultrasound. So of course, under my insurance, the first ultrasound wasn't for like 2 or 3 weeks out. So I actually went to a different doctor the next day to get a vaginal ultrasound. that doctor saw a sac and a yolk, but nothing was in it, and he said the same thing: maybe you are just not as far along as you think you are. I knew exactly how far along I was. There was no ifs, ands, or buts. I had everything calculated because I'm anal and a freak. So I was just like, okay, well, maybe the little guy was hanging out there and didn't go in until later. Anyway, so the next step was that he ordered a blood test, 2 blood tests, 2 days apart, to measure my HCG levels. What he was looking for was an HCG level of a certain amount, and in 2 days that amount should have doubled or increased substantially. Of course, I was doing these blood tests over Memorial Day weekend, so nothing was open. And I was looking at the counts myself through the Quest Diagnostics portal. So I saw my HCG level at first was 26,000 something, and then 2 days later it was 27,000 something, which was not a huge increase, but it was an increase. And in the meantime, I was getting more and more nauseous. I was getting more and more bloated. I was feeling more and more symptoms of pregnancy. So I was like, for sure, you know, I'm pregnant. Like, my body is going crazy. Well, I called the doctor that Tuesday after Memorial Day, and he had to call me back, and basically he was like, okay, your HCG levels didn't increase. I'm diagnosing you with a blighted ovum. There are 2 different roads you can take. You can come in for a procedure where we'll remove all of the yolk and sac and all of that. Or I can prescribe you pills, and you can take the pills and you'll probably rid yourself of everything within a week or 2, but it could take anywhere between 3 or 4 weeks. We don't know. So me being the organic type homeopathic person that I pretend that I am, I opted for the pills. They were called Methylergonovine. I was prescribed 12 pills over the course of 4 days. After 2.5 days of taking the pills, I started to bleed. And then a week later, I had severe cramping. And people say it's like contractions, but I've never had contractions, so I'm actually not sure, but it was super, super painful. I couldn't move. I had to lay down. The contractions lasted about an hour or 2 hours, and then I passed stuff, and it was crazy. It wasn't, not to get too graphic, but it wasn't like a period, and you could feel the stuff. It was black, it was insane, it was horrible. So I was like, well, that's it. I passed. Can maybe move on, even though I wasn't close to moving on. So I continued bleeding, and I bled consistently for another week, and exactly a week later, I had these severe cramps again. I was laying on the bed and I passed again. More stuff, like a lot more. And I was like, whoa, okay, maybe that was it. I continued to bleed. I bled more, and I called the doctor, and the doctor said, you shouldn't be bleeding for more than 2 weeks. You should come in for an appointment. Before I got into the appointment, I had another round of cramps and contractions, and I passed again more stuff, and it was a lot, and you know, you feel it come, and it's horrible. And you know, you're in your regular bathroom. Insane. So I got to go into the doctor's, and you know, I was like, I'm still bleeding. It's been 3 weeks. I don't think this is normal. And the doctor agreed, you shouldn't be bleeding for this long. Let me go in and check. So when the doctor was in there, he said he was seeing a lot of, I forget how he phrased it, like skin or things in there that shouldn't be in there. So he said, I'm gonna remove them while you're here. And so we started to scrape out everything, and it was really painful. And you know, I was by myself for the appointment. I didn't expect that to kind of happen. But he got out all of the stuff, and there was blood everywhere, and it was really traumatic. It cleaned up, and I went to the bathroom after, and stuff was coming out, and the doctor said, okay, there was a lot of skin in there after, you know, 3 weeks, so I'm going to prescribe you more pills. And this time he prescribed me Misoprostol, because that would get out anything left. He prescribed me antibiotics because it's not good for that stuff to be in your system for that length of time. So I think I had an infection. And then he also prescribed me another vaginal ultrasound to see if they had removed all of the other stuff. Just to be safe, but he thought he got everything. So later that day, I went for the vaginal ultrasound, which was, it was a very traumatic day. A lot was happening, you know, down there. And this time my husband went with me because he was home, and he felt so bad that he wasn't there for the other appointment. So the lady that was doing my ultrasound was kind of confused as to why I was there. I was like, I'm suffering a miscarriage. The doctor wants to see if he got everything out. And the lady was like, what are you talking about? Like, that makes no sense. And I was like, he said I had like a blighted ovum, so I was on these pills, they didn't come out, so he's ordered this so you can check. And she's like, oh, a blighted ovum? Why didn't you say something? That's like not the same thing as, you know, having a baby. And I was like, oh, cool, yeah, right. And I felt horrible, you know. And I think she felt bad that she said that, because obviously I don't know what's going on, and I am having a miscarriage, and that's what he told me, and this is the type of miscarriage I'm having, lady. But anyway, so she couldn't tell me anything. She said the doctor had to read the ultrasound and come back to me. I obviously continued bleeding. I went back in for another appointment, and I got a lady doctor, and she was super sweet. She said they got everything out. She couldn't tell me when I would stop bleeding. It varies between different people, and that I'm in the clear. And you know, I don't know if it was because she was a lady compared to the men that I was seeing, but you know, she offered counseling, and she said, what you went through was very traumatic. Take the time that you need to grieve. I'm here if you need to talk. So that meant a lot. So, you know, when I left there, I was feeling a bit of relief, but, you know, I continued bleeding, and I continued bleeding for 45 days. So, you know, my experience was drawn out, which I know a lot of people have the same thing. And, you know, that's when, you know, I was reading articles like, what is this blighted ovum? Why did I go through this? Which there isn't a reason why you have a blighted ovum. And 80% of women who have blighted ovums go on to have healthy pregnancies after, which is definitely encouraging. But I read this article about Kate Mara, who had a baby, and she talked about in the article how she had a blighted ovum previously. How it was this long drawn out process. It took 3 months to get over. It was very traumatic. And when I read that article, I felt so much comfort that I knew that I wanted to tell my story to hopefully give other women comfort if they were going through this as well. So when I stopped bleeding, I felt better, but I was still really bloated and not myself. And it really took probably until now, which is about 4 months later, 3 months later, that I feel myself again. And that's a long time. You know, I'm 38 now. My clock is ticking. But I wanted to share this with you because when I read that article and I saw that Kate went through the same thing as me, I just felt like, wow, all these women going through this. And, you know, we do talk about it, but not enough. I don't want anyone else to feel alone. If you know someone who has gone through a miscarriage or is going through a miscarriage, the only advice I would give you is to just be there and be patient, because it's very emotional. Like, some days I was fine and then other days I was not fine. And it didn't help when people were like, oh, you know, at least you can get pregnant, or everyone has a miscarriage. All my friends have had miscarriages. It's super normal. Or, you know, when people are like, all right, well, we just gotta try again. We just, you know, next time. Like, I don't know what the right thing to say is, but like, I think it's just being there for the person and letting them grieve and be crazy and all those things. Because now, you know, I'm not gonna have that excited experience the next time, hopefully, I get pregnant. I'm not gonna film it. I'm not gonna like just like have that first experience again. And that sucks. But, you know, we all have different stories, and that's my story. And everything happens for a reason. So, we shall see. Okay, whoa, that was intense, and I wanted to end this on a lighter note because I am okay and you will get through this. So, just a few things. I said stuff a lot, and I think it just goes to show you how a first-time pregnant person understands things. I didn't really know the technical words of everything that was going on. Apologies if I didn't explain everything super accurately. 2, my cry face is heinous. Wow. I will try never to cry on camera ever again. Wow. Wow. Okay. And third, the construction outside, apologies, but it was really killing my vibe. I was being super emotional and they didn't care, so thanks a lot. Miami construction, it never ends. Knowing now what I didn't know then, I would definitely do a few things differently, and I want to share them with you just in case you're going through the same thing. One, I probably wouldn't tell as many people that I got pregnant before my first appointment. The reason being is not because you don't care and you have, family members that you want to tell and all that stuff, but just remember, if something goes wrong, you have to go back and talk to each and every person that you have told to explain what happened, but also you have to hear their opinion on what you should and shouldn't do, and it's a lot when you're going through something dramatic. Two, when I was given 2 roads on what to do to get rid of my blighted ovum, I chose the pills, and looking back, I probably should have chosen the procedure. There are obviously downsides to both, but I do feel that if I had gotten the procedure, maybe it wouldn't have been such a long, drawn out process for me. But I did hear people who went through the procedure went on to have a very severe first period and even second period. So obviously there's downs to both sides. So just follow your heart. Third, next time I will not change my daily routine as much as I did this first time. Like, it was so dramatic. I started drinking green shakes and not putting anything bad into my body the second I found out I was pregnant, which is not like me. I eat fast food, I eat junk food and stuff like that, and I just quit everything cold turkey and only ate health foods. And guess what? I still had a miscarriage. So F that. I'm not gonna do that again. I'm of course gonna be nutritious and take my prenatals and stuff like that, but I'm not gonna go crazy because whatever. Third or fourth, I am not gonna sign up for every pregnancy app and every email, because you still get messages after you had your miscarriage about how far along you should be, and everyone in the forums are like sharing their experiences at the moment. And yes, you put that you've had a miscarriage and they send you resources, but you still get all of the sponsored posts on Instagram and Facebook. So it's just like this taunting that tells you, what you should be preparing for when you're no longer pregnant and you don't need to prepare anymore. So thanks digital marketing, something that I have done in the past, for making it harder for people who have gone through miscarriages. But anyway, thank you so much for listening to my story. I hope that maybe this has brought someone comfort. I want you to know that you will be okay. It takes time, but there is a light at the end of the tunnel. I'm in the light and I'm super excited to try again. And just know that this too shall pass.